Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Delivering a Native Windows App on Chrome OS. I am Antwune Gray, VP of Technical Operations at NetX Information Systems. I'm joined today by Jordan Pusey, Account Executive at Cameyo. Before I turn the mic over to Jordan, I'd like to take a moment to tell you a little about NetX. NetX celebrated its 25th year in business this year. We have a long history in helping clients reduce costs, improve efficiency, and decrease complexity in the areas of security, endpoint management, data protection, archiving, and more, leveraging our industry-tested engineering staff and trainers. You'll note from the slide, NetX is a national authorized training partner for Veritas and Symantec. If you attend one of our training classes, NetX will provide a complimentary assessment of your environment. Contact us at sales@netxinc.com for details. NetX has a broad ecosystem of partners and offerings. I'm happy to say that Cameyo is not only a partner, but we use Cameyo internally to deliver our legacy Windows-only based accounting and quoting tools to our sales and accounting force. The tools are delivered securely, anywhere, to any device with a web browser, and access is guarded by single sign-on and MFA without the overhead of a VPN tunnel. And now, without further ado, Jordan Pusey.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jordan Pusey, as Antwune mentioned. I am an account executive over here at Cameyo, and my specialty is education. So I've worked with a number of school districts, literally hundreds of school districts, and talked to them about the benefits of Cameyo and why you would need something like this for your school. So there's lots of things that I wanted to point out, but the first couple of things here are how in a one-to-one environment, when you're trying to support Chromebooks, how can you support some of what we call last mile applications, where you still need some resources to be able to run those Windows applications. A lot of times people will double purchase. They'll buy Windows PCs just for labs. They will, try and use those labs, or they'll give the students the laptops or have a cart. There's lots of different ways that you can provide those. However, with Cameyo, you now have a way to provide Windows applications within the web browser. That means that you can support any device that you have for your students. That can be the Chromebooks that you give out in there, or it can be, a Mac, or it can be even a home device or a PC. The other thing that's a big advantage with Cameyo is that there's a centralized management aspect to this, where you'll be able to install your applications for everyone in a single spot, so that you'll be able to not have to go and touch individual machines to, reduce your support costs and so forth. So we've seen quite a few school districts that have reduced their lab consumption, if not eliminated their labs, reduced their dependence on PCs, and reduced their costs, their overall costs of supporting these applications. So on the left here, you'll see a couple of applications that are pretty popular in education. So especially K through 12, so if you have some things like where you have a CTE course, or a STEM course, or an art course, you can see some of the software titles that we can support. We do support GPU access, so things like Autodesk will work. We will support Photoshop, which you'll actually see as part of the demonstration a little bit more. So all of those applications that you're looking at that are typical for a school lab are ones that we can help you support. The other thing is that we can support students and staff from anywhere. So, particularly during the pandemic, we had quite a number of schools that came to us and said, hey, we need to be able to support our students through the end of the school year. We actually, some really amazing stories. We actually got some very big school districts up in a couple of weeks, and some smaller ones in a couple of days. being able to get them access to those applications very quickly. We've become much better, much faster at that since then, and so we can help you and your school provide those. I know that there's some controversy about homework and so forth with schools and so forth, but the fact of the matter is that you still want to be able to support those kids no matter what they are using, as well as no matter where they are. So if you want to provide things like homework, or you want to provide a way for those students to be able to get access to those applications outside of the physical location of your school, Cameyo is a great way for you to do that. It'll support any device, as I mentioned, so Chromebook, PC, Mac, iOS, Android, anything with a modern web browser. Funny story, I've even had a couple of students try and use these applications with their phones, although a little bit more difficult, it is doable. So, giving the kids flexibility, providing a way to provide a standardized web experience, being able to focus on the application itself and not, distracting them with additional desktops. Those are all things that Cameyo can help you with. The other thing here too is that we are a cost-effective PC lab replacement. So if you want to take a look at us at a way to replace your labs, the nice thing is that with our fully hosted solution, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, we are based in Google Cloud. So with Google Cloud, we continue to get new innovation, newer and faster, hardware that can be able to run those applications. It just gets better and better as we go along. So you'll be able to reduce your PC labs, or if not eliminate those. The other thing too is that the way that we price Cameyo, we price it on a per user basis. So not a lab consumption. So you won't have a variable cost. You'll have a predictable cost for your annual budget that we can help you with. And so those are some really big advantages of what Cameyo can do for your school and for what is education. So I kind of put the cart before the horse, but in this case, let me give you a little bit more information about what Cameyo is. So Cameyo is virtual application delivery. We do host your Windows applications. We host them in a variety of different places. That's that last bucket over there, which is flexibility. But most schools use our fully hosted solution where they just simply don't have to worry about the hardware. They don't have to worry about what's going on in the back end and so forth. That's just all taken care of for you. And so I'll show you some really cool ways that we can expand things like elastic clustering and so forth to help us make sure that you have as many resources as you need to make sure that your kids are successful. So simple, we'll show you that. It's really easy. I'll jump right into that. We'll get into a demo in less than a couple of minutes here. Zero trust, it's very secure. So when you're making sure that we're protecting both your students and your student data and your teachers, we want to make sure that it's a secure environment. So we'll show you some security features along the way, things like authentication, using some authentication to be able to access those applications, using HTTPS and encryption, making sure that the data is as outputted by those applications is put in the right places. All of those things are going to be part of what the Cameyo experience for your students and for you. And then I already talked a little bit about a cost effective, but we do want to provide that model that is going to fit within your budget. It's easy, it's predictable. It makes it so that you can consume Cameyo and not have to worry about paying the monthly bill or making sure that you're not going to go over or denying kids access to those applications because you don't have enough in your bucket. So all of those things are things that we can help you with. Okay, so without further ado, I'm just going to jump right into it. We're going to go take a look at Cameyo, show you some ideas as to how Cameyo can help you and your students, and give you an idea of how easy it is to use a platform like Cameyo. So you'll notice here, I'm on my Chromebook. I opened up a web page here. I got access to a portal. In this case, I'm an administrator. So we're going to go into some details as to what that looks like as an administrator and making sure that we know how to install these applications and distribute them to your end users. But this is one way that you can distribute the applications to your students. You can use this Cameyo portal. And this Cameyo portal is as simple as them logging in. So you can see up here on the top, I am currently authenticated. And once I do log in with my Cameyo credentials or with my Google credentials, then I'll get access to a series of tiles and applications that I have access to as a student, as a teacher, as an administrator. If I go ahead and I click on the tiles, it'll open up a new tab in the browser, and then I'll be able to get access to that application. So I'm going to show you a few things before we jump into the application. As an administrator, I get a few more options here. And with those, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in detail, but if I highlight this up here at the top, that is a URL. That is a direct URL and another way to distribute the application. So you're welcome to use the portal that you just saw, or you're welcome to use this direct link. And that direct link has access to the application. They'll be forced to authenticate and log in. And then once they do, they'll get access to that application. That means that you can use that in a web browser, in a website. You could use it on an intranet site. You could use it in your own class portal. So if you've got things like ClassLink or Schoology or Clever, all of those things would work. You could just simply drop those links right in and get access to those applications. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit the play button here. You'll notice that it opened up a new tab in my browser. And you'll also notice that with that new tab, I have up here a lock key. So everything is done through HTTPS. And then I get access to this version. It's a full Windows version of Microsoft Office. I get access to that with Cameyo, and that will be all running in the cloud, as I mentioned. So our fully hosted solution, again, is in Google Cloud. So what you're seeing is a picture, if you will, or an interaction with this application that is all happening. All the compute itself is happening in the cloud. However, within the web browser, you're able to get access to that application, all of the functions that you normally would expect from an application work. So all the keyboard commands, all the mouse commands, all the things that you would expect from an application. I forgot, I'm actually going to go back here. And let's show something a little bit more complex. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the play button here on Photoshop. And you'll see, for instance, that that tab comes up. We see the Cameyo splash screen, which, by the way, is replaceable by you. If you want to put your school logo on there, you certainly can do that. And then you'll see the Photoshop logo here, and you'll see it load with Photoshop. Now, the thing that I'm going to show you here is that we've also integrated all of these applications natively with some online resources. So if you want to support cloud drives, like for instance, Google Drive or OneDrive or Dropbox, you certainly can do that. So when I click the open button here, you'll see that I've got Google Drive up here. I've also got OneDrive. And then I can also support my Teams drives as well. So if you are shared drives in Google Drive, so you can certainly support all of those functions. But this is where you're going to save documents. So everything, because this is a full cloud solution, all things happen in the cloud, including storing all of your documents. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the, let's see, we'll go find a document here. I've got an easy one here. It's a PSD file. It's in its native format. And then once that PSD file loads, you can see I now have access to this, and then I can start to manipulate the document how I want. And you can see how easy it is to use an application. It's very responsive. It has near zero latency. So all of those things that you would expect from a typical Windows application should just work right inside of Cameyo. Okay, so the other thing I want to talk about is interacting with the local device. So we do have some options here. For instance, if I want to access a local drive on my PC or Mac, I could open up, my Windows Explorer or whatever. Here's some files here. I can grab a file and then just simply drag and drop it into this window, and then it would upload that file to the application and open it inside of the application. Same with the save as. So if I do a file in a save as, I can also do save it on my computer. I can also do this download function, and when I hit save, it'll just use the typical download function of a web browser to be able to download. So there it goes. You can see that I'm downloading that PSD file, and then it saves it on the local drive. So some ways to interact with the local device if necessary. Makes it very easy. The other thing I want to show you here is printing. So if I need to print something, I can do a file and a print, hopefully here. And, this isn't something that's great out of Photoshop, but if I hit print, what it will do is we can use what we call our Cameyo virtual printer driver. And with the Cameyo virtual printer driver, it does a pass-through, and it will just pass that print job to my web browser. So you can see from my web browser, I now have a print dialog, and then I can select a local printer driver. I don't have any here, I apologize. And then I would just simply hit print from my web browser and be able to get that print job. So some really easy ways to save documents in the cloud, some ways to support printing. Everything is done through an HTML5 web browser. So this is a Chromebook, but it could be a Mac or a PC. It could be an Android device, a tablet, whatever you've got that supports a web browser. All of those devices would work. Okay, this is the end user experience. So the next piece of this is that we're going to switch hats and talk about the admin experience and installing applications. I just want to promote the chat box there. So if you do have questions, you're welcome to send those in a chat. I'd be happy to answer those questions along the way as part of the demo. Or we can save those questions till the end, but you do have those. So if you do have questions, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer those. We'll go back to the Cameyo interface here. What I want to do here is I need to install an application. So let me show you how to do that. The first thing you need to do is you need to create a server. And that's as easy as clicking on this add button down here. And then you'll have a big box. I'll go here. You'll have a big box, this green box here on the left-hand side where you'll be able to choose a data center. So if you want, there's a couple in the US. Obviously, if you are not from the US, there's a few outside of Europe, whatever. Wherever there's a Google data center, in this case, you can go ahead and select a data center and then just hit this big Create Now button. It takes about 3 to 5 minutes to create a server. And then once that server is created, then we're going to go and install software on it. I want to pause here for a brief moment and talk about some of the flexibility that you have. So over here on the right-hand side, you'll see that you can host these applications in your own data center or in your own colo or in your own instance of a cloud data center. So lots of different options to be able to host these applications. And when I mean host these applications, that means providing the resources and the servers you need to run those applications. You could do that on site if you want to. And we do have customers, I'll show you one later, where you can use existing hardware if you wish. So if you've got some server space and so forth, you're welcome to go try that. You can also use what we call BYO, where if you've got an instance of Google Cloud that you like and you want to pay the bill separately, or you got an instance of Azure, both of those would work. You can use those very similar to the way that we use fully hosted in the fact that we just automate the processes of creating servers. If you want to use your own data center, then you need to provide those servers. If I click on the Get Started button, it takes me to a knowledge base article on our website. You're welcome to go look that up right now or later on, where you can get the information on how to host self-hosted servers. We just require that you provide a Windows Server instance. It could be physical or virtual. And then once you've got that, then you just install our software, and all of the steps from there on out become the same once that server is included in this list. Okay. So back to the fully hosted version here. If you click on, once that server gets created, it'll appear in this list. You'll see I've got one created already for us. Over here on the right-hand side, I would just simply hit Action and connect as an admin to be able to get access to that server. For demo's sake, I'm going to use a different one. Let's try, hold my control key down. Okay, so once I get access to that server, you'll see that a new tab comes up. I will be connected to that server as a full administrator, local administrator. And then what I'll need to do to install software is I'll just need to follow these steps 1, 2, and 3. So you'll see we've made it easy for you to understand how this works. First step is really pretty straightforward. I just need to get the software to this server. Since it is in the cloud, that means you need to download it or upload it. You also can go to your vendor's website directly. So if it's an Adobe or an Autodesk app, you can just go directly to the website. Step 2, you just install the software just like you normally would. And then step 3 over here on the right-hand side, it'll appear in the recently installed list, and then you would just simply check the box, hit apply. So I'll do an example of how that works. Let's do something simple. So I'm going to launch the browser, and I'm going to do something, let's do something simple like Notepad++. I'm going to go to the vendor's website. So this is a browser in a browser, if you will. And I'm going to go ahead and download their code, their installer. And I'm going to run it. And then I just do the click through. Ignore the license agreement. Hit install. Okay, that was simple. It was fast. Obviously, yours would take a little bit longer. So I'm going to go ahead and hit finish here. You'll notice that I left the run on, so I can actually run the application in this interface. So if there's any settings, so if we go to settings and preferences, if there's any settings that you need to change, if you need to license the application, if you need to add additional template files or make any registry changes or add additional web installers, anything that you need to do to configure this application, you can do inside this administrative interface. I don't need to do anything in this case, so I'm going to go ahead and close that in the web browser. Down here on the bottom right, you'll see that the recently installed now shows up with Notepad++. I hit the checkbox, hit apply. It says you can now access that in your browser, in your admin console. So if I go back on this tab to my admin console and click on apps, you'll see I now have Notepad++ added to this list. As an administrator, I get a few more options. I talked about this URL. I could easily copy this URL and paste that into a new tab. That's one way to distribute it. I can send it in an email. I can create a desktop icon. There's just lots of different things that you can do to distribute that application. If you want to use the Cameyo portal down here on the bottom right, I would just simply check this box to say show in portal. I can also set up restrictions to say only teachers or only students that are in the class get access to this application. And then once I've got those restrictions set up, when they log in, that's how they would get access to these applications. And then I would just simply hit the play button to get access to that. One of the things here that I'm going to show you is that getting access to the Google Drive is an automated process. So you would just simply, once you've logged in, have this access to this application, then you can just simply hit the save button and you'll see that familiar dialog that you configure as an administrator so that you can save that document to your Google Drive or OneDrive or Dropbox. So all of that's just easy to do, easy to integrate. The other thing I'm going to show you too is just a couple of features here. So we've got things like on-screen keyboards if you want to use a tablet device. For instance, I do have a touch device, so I can put my name in here or whatever. All those things just work. The other thing too, with some of the Chromebooks, if you've got those poor 11-inch screens and so forth, you can do things like full screen, so you can take up as much real estate as you need. So that's an interesting one, and those are all configurable by you. The other thing too is you'll notice that we're concentrated on the application itself, so there's no distraction with the desktop. All of the files are saved in a Google Drive. But if you do need access to additional applications, we do offer things like toolbars down here. So for instance, I can launch additional applications within the session. If the app itself launches additional applications within the session, then you can certainly support that as well. So lots of things that you can do with Cameyo. Okay, back to the Cameyo interface. I now have an application here. I'll show you a little bit about integrating your authentication. So you claim your identity domain over here on the right-hand side, and then you get an option of Google, Microsoft, Okta. pretty much any SSO would work. So, go look at if you've got something that you're using. I'd be happy to talk to you about the specifics of that and how that would work. What's really popular in schools is the Google login. And then over here, you also have the option to request users automatically connect to their Google Drive or their OneDrive. So that makes it very easy for you to access that. You can see you can replace your logos here on those splash screens. And then over here in session settings, you can see that there are some basic settings for configuring that end user experience, including some really cool things that we call power tags. If you are interested, I'll show you some of those, but those are all ways that you can help manipulate that end user experience. Those are all the things I'm going to show in the demo. One more thing, just really quick. Once you created that single server, we can get a handful of users on per server, but you'll notice that I need to be able to grow with you, so it'll keep getting slower and slower if I keep adding more users. That is not the case with Cameyo. We have what we call elastic clustering. So with elastic clustering with our fully hosted solution, you can just simply create copies of the server and cluster those copies so that when this server fills up, you can go to the next server and go to the next server. And we can create these servers on demand. So if you've got high demand in one day, you can just simply create the next server and the next server and the next server. And we can handle very large organizations. So we've seen school districts, up to 1,500 connections, simultaneous connections, no sweat. It just happens in the background. We do all the load balancing. We do all the clustering. All the gateways, all that stuff happens in the background. So don't let the simplicity of Cameyo fool you for how much we've automated and how much is in the background. There really is an amazing platform for you to be successful with your school. Okay, so that's what I show in the demo. Here's a couple of school districts that have gone before you. I've worked with both of these. So Community School District 99, they were one of the school districts that came to us during the pandemic. We actually set them up in a weekend. And on Monday, they were able to get their kids onto Autodesk. I believe it was AutoCAD. And they were able to, or Inventor, one of the two, I can't remember. But they were able to keep that class running through the end of the semester. They continue to get value from Cameyo. They're looking at replacing PC labs, and they are going forward with, providing the homework and the things that they need to be able to be successful with their students on their Chromebooks. You can see here, Baldwinsville was one that went and did a self-hosted implementation. They actually replaced a virtualization technology with Cameyo. And so there's some great ways that they can reutilize their hardware to get an even better implementation. And that is pretty much the end. Antwune, here's some information for NetX. If you do have questions about Cameyo, Antwune is fantastic. He'd be able to help you understand a lot of good things. You're also welcome to reach out to me as well. Antwune, do you want to wrap this up?
Yes, absolutely. So thank you very much for that, Jordan. Very informative. And each and every time I sit through one of your presentations, I learn a bit more. So definitely, if you are interested in Cameyo, we can do a personalized demo. Reach out to us at sales@netxinc.com. You can also visit us on any of our social media channels for more information about Cameyo and NetX in general. We'd be happy to help. We are standing by. Thank you again for your time today to join us for this session. Thank you, Jordan, for the great information. And one other thing I'd like to say, as a user of Cameyo, it really is the easy button. And we took the self-hosted route where we are actually hosting our system in Azure. And it was really simple to get Cameyo up and running. Understanding your applications is, always the piece that you'd have to ensure that it is covered. But from a Cameyo perspective, it's easy peasy. So definitely reach out to us. We'd be happy to have a conversation with you. And with that, I thank you again for joining and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, everybody.